Welcome to Derek Does. Today, we're doing this. This is a series I did on baking. I did this a couple years ago and I just hated to waste it. And I thought I'd throw it up here on Derek Does because I do a lot of stuff. Now this particular one is this, and I think you're gonna enjoy it. Hi everyone, welcome to Baking with Derek. Today we're gonna make something I've never made before and I'm gonna kinda wing it, but it's gonna be sourdough bread. Come on. Now normally I would have 650 grams of water, but today I did 600. And the reason I did that is because our sourdough starter is basically just water and flour. So basically I'm gonna put 100 grams of this into here and let it sit like we normally would do with normal yeast, but instead we're gonna use the sourdough starter. So let's zero our counter, and we're gonna add 100 grams of sourdough starter. See how it floats? That's how you know this is perfectly ready to use. So when you make your sourdough starter and you hit your 7 days or whatever, put a little bit into the water and see if it floats. And if it floats, you're good. So we're 80, 92, 95, 106. Close enough. I'm not going to take it back out. Now what we'll do with the starter is we'll add basically 50 grams of flour and 50 grams of water, which will take us back to 100. So we'll put it back in the fridge when we're done. And this, I'm just going to give it a stir. And let that dissolve into the water. And this is our natural yeast. Now what's going to happen, I believe is going to happen, is this will take longer to rise than normal yeast because it's not concentrated and made in a factory. It's actually made naturally in the air. Okay, 10 minutes has passed. I don't see anything visibly different with our sourdough starter that we put into water, but we're just gonna kind of go with it because that's kind of how I would normally make bread. We're gonna see how this works. So we're gonna add the flour now, and we're gonna add like we normally would make our normal bread. So 100 grams of whole wheat and about 900 grams of all-purpose for 1,000 altogether. And then we're gonna want 20 grams of salt. All right, now we're gonna mix it. Just hand mix it. We're gonna let it sit for 30 minutes before we put it on our KitchenAid. So you wanna mix this and let it sit just to let the water really absorb into the flour. It's kind of like a pre-mixture, but it also gives you more flavor because the longer your flour sits, more flavor you get. Let it sit for 30. All right, 30 minutes has passed. Hopefully our sourdough has absorbed into the flour, and we're gonna put this on the mixer for about 5 minutes like we normally do with normal bread. Basically from here on, I'm thinking it's gonna be like normal bread, but we're gonna find out because it may take a lot longer. Normally it's a 3-hour wait. It may be 6 hours, I don't know, we'll find out. All right, 5 minutes is up. As always, I always like to give a little hand mix to everything just to get a feel for the dough. Because that's part of the fun of making bread, is you get your hands in there and you're physically making it. Put a little flour just on top. for it. Gonna need a scraper. Alright, we're gonna put it back into the bowl. Less bowls to wash. Flip it around. Plop it right in. It definitely has that sourdough-ish smell because we're using the sourdough starter, so your bread will smell different than what you normally make if you've never made a sourdough. So basically we're going to cover this for 3 hours like we normally do, but we're going to see if it's actually enough. So here's the before, and hopefully we'll see this double in size in 3 hours. See you soon. Welcome back, everybody. We've let the dough go for about 5 hours, and it's pretty much doubled in size. All right, I'm gonna lay it out just like we normally would do with bread. Flour on top. Get that air out. We're going to cut this in half. And work on one piece at a time. Basically, what we always do, gonna fold it. And as we fold it, we get the air out. And then we're gonna roll it back and forth until we get a nice, tight, firm skin on it. Gonna let it sit. Now do the other one. Same thing. I'm just gonna put just a little sprinkling just on top. We're gonna let this sit for a half an hour. All right, everybody, we're a half hour. Again, what we always do with our bread. I love these bowls. You just wanna flour them up so that your bread doesn't stick. Again, we're gonna flour. Do what we did before. Get what air's in there. We're gonna roll it or fold it. And you can actually hear the air that's in there once we do this. Roll it back and forth like we did before. Flip it upside down, put a little bit of flour on it, rub it in, put that to the side. Now the other one, and put it in upside down, a little bit of flour on top. And we're gonna let that sit for, I would say, an hour and a half. I don't know, it might be 2-3 hours. I don't know with this sourdough. We'll find out. Okay, 4 hours later. Normally it's just an hour when I do my normal bread, but it's almost risen to the same height. Not quite, but pretty close. So I'm gonna put it in the oven. Again, we have a pan of water to help give it steam. And I have 2 pizza stones that I'll be putting the bread on. One. And 2. And then of course we'll score it. cook this for 40 minutes. All right, it's done. Our first sourdough. It actually rose pretty good. All right, sourdough bread. This is the first time we've made this. It actually looks pretty good. I'm gonna let it cool down before I cut it open to see how it looks on the inside and how it tastes particularly, because that's where you're really gonna know about the sourdoughness. So if you wanna make sourdough bread, watch my previous video that shows you how to do the starter. It takes about 7-8 days to get going, but then once that's going, you can make this every time you make bread. It's pretty good. Still hot. Ooh, still really hot. But there you go, look at that. If you like this video, subscribe, and we're gonna have a lot more baking and a lot more fun. So I'll see you next time.